Today, we bring you 3 stories for bedtime listening, relaxation, and to keep you company in the background. The Killer App by Dark Quiet Dread. If you'd asked me a year ago, I would have said that new apps on your phone were no big deal. But now, I think I'm a lesson in don't always believe what you are told. I'm Samuel, and I work as a sales lead. I'm used to being around emerging technology. It's my life. So we were surprised, but not unduly alarmed, when we realised there was a new app installed on our work phones. Alexia. The higher-ups said they didn't know anything about it, but they'd lied before. What was weird was IT. Damien, the head, said categorically they had not approved installation. And when they checked the code, they said it was unrecognisable. Not Java, not C#, it just existed. But the higher-ups were thrilled with it. It promised rejuvenation and accelerated workplace performance. Of course they loved it. We complied and started using it, the whole company. I didn't really notice anything different at first. But of course, if my manager asked, I said it was great. I would open it, fill out the daily reminder for information, and keep the app open, as requested. Some of the information was odd, but I reasoned it was thoroughly collecting data. For what, I didn't know. After a week or so, a few of us started noticing changes. Seth was delighted that he was sleeping so well. Our jobs are stressful, and good sleep matters. He said he felt refreshed. But Bonnie, she was not so good. She felt more sluggish, but didn't necessarily blame the app, just lack of coffee. Graham, he felt sharper, and he looked it. Compared with Bonnie, he looked vital. Well, our managers all wanted that. Then more changes started occurring. Seth drifted through the day yawning. Graham became more arrogant, louder, obnoxious. He'd had his flaws before, and now his arrogance was turbocharged. He seemed unstoppable, but his numbers were through the roof. Bonnie stopped showing up to work. The boss did a welfare check, but there was no answer. We all assumed she'd quit. The pressure was intense. A few days later, I saw that her profile photo was greyed out on the Alexia app, but I thought it was a glitch. As for me, I didn't really feel anything at first, maybe occasionally a bit tired, like Seth. I thought the app was in a testing phase. A couple of weeks passed, and I started to feel uneasy. I don't know if I put it down to the app, or maybe I just didn't want to. More people seemed to have mysteriously quit, like Bonnie. Mike, another sales rep, stopped answering his phone. And then Seth was signed off sick. He messaged me, saying he couldn't get out of bed. I stopped hearing from him, and I noticed his profile picture was greyed out too. The changes seemed to be happening everywhere, not just at our level. A couple of the board members vanished, but the CEO was euphoric that our sales numbers had improved. Even with the reduction in staff, we were outpacing where we were the previous quarter. Then the lethargy hit me hard. I began to feel more and more tired, and I just didn't know why. I went to the doctor, started taking vitamin D to combat the winter, but nothing helped. A few days after that, I could not summon the energy to go into work. I called in sick. I felt dark inside, ill and hollow, like when you're recovering from the flu, but deeper, much worse. I looked outside my window. Sunny day, light bouncing off parked cars. It didn't make me feel alive like it used to. Suddenly, on impulse, I turned off my work phone. That lack of connection gave me something back, a flicker of warmth. I sat down and considered. With the evidence clear to me, I chose to no longer ignore it. That afternoon, I went to Seth's house and knocked on the door. I knew where he kept a spare key, and I let myself in. There was the hum of a laptop playing something on loop softly in the background. He said he loved nature documentaries and would watch them to relax. Dreading what I might find, I went upstairs. I pushed open what I assumed was his bedroom door. It was dark, and there was a smell of decay. I covered my mouth and flicked on the light. But there was nothing. No body, no Seth. But there was a deep indentation in the bed, like someone had lain there for days, and it was dark. His work phone was propped up by his bed, still plugged in, the light blinking at me like a shitty beacon. But the screen seemed too bright. I moved towards it and saw the last notification Seth would have read. Alexia, hope level 0%. Thank you for supporting workplace excellence. Welcome back to the office. I backed away and got out of there. When I got back home, I switched on my phone and tried to delete the app. I couldn't. It was impossible. I looked at my account and tried to delete my profile. Again, nothing doing. I sat back and realised there was nothing I could do. I was connected to this thing. But I could have some effect. I could slow it. I didn't have to feed it. My profile picture was faded, but it was still there, still visibly me. I looked at the dozens of other pictures that were now grey, and saw others which were rapidly losing their colour. It's been 3 months since I left the company. The 2-week notice period was hard. I was yelled at for not filling in my daily Alexia log. But I didn't care. No one listened to me. I tried to tell my colleagues and a few of the bosses, but they thought I was crazy. So I put myself first. I still have the phone. I thought it was important to keep track of the app and what has happened to my colleagues. More people are now greyed out, and the CEO was replaced. Every time I switch it on, there is a pull, like something is demanding my attention. It wants me to give more. My profile is still there. It still has colour. But I know each time I look, it takes something from me. So I'm careful, and I measure my time with it to the second. I'm in another state now, and I work for myself. But I still check my new phone every morning, just to make sure no new apps have mysteriously appeared.
The Travel Agent by Dark Quiet Dread.
I used to think ghosts were seen by other people, not by me, until now. My name is Katie, and I work in a travel agency. Yes, they do still exist. I specialise in luxury boutique holidays for clients who want personalised experiences, and I love the work. The discounts help me visit my parents back in the States. The office itself is tiny, tucked in an old brick building just off the high street. The landlord told me it was built in the 1800s, which feels about right. The floorboards creak, and the windows rattle when the buses go by. My job is ordinary, predictable, comforting in its way, until one day everything changed. When you sit in the front office, you can see the world go by outside, but it always feels slightly muted, like your life is behind glass. That day, it was like the volume was turned way down. I couldn't hear anything. All I could hear was my own breathing. I was already feeling low. I couldn't travel home for the holidays because we were short-staffed. It was just me that day in the office. I was staring out of the window, watching people with parcels and bags hurry by. The rain was running down the windows in thin, shaky lines. Then it grew heavier quickly. The kind of sudden downpour that sounds like gravel hitting the glass. When the rain really gets going here, it means it. I was never scared before. In fact, I love a good rain shower. But this was different, unsettling. I could only hear the rain. I felt colder. A cold draft brushed the back of my neck, and I turned, expecting the door behind me to be open. It wasn't. But then the actual door did swing open, hard enough to make the bell above it ring. A young woman stepped inside, wearing a rain mac and shaking her umbrella. Long blonde hair and a wary smile. "Hi," I said, standing. "Can I help you?" She hesitated, like she was weighing something, choosing her words carefully. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a brochure, glossy, faded, but unmistakably 1980s. Bright neon colours and big hair. Slogans in bubbly fonts. "I was wondering," she said softly, "is this something you offer?" I flicked through it. No modern prices, no contact information that still existed, nor were there QR codes or websites. The paper was starting to yellow around the edges. "I'm really sorry," I said gently, wondering why she would bring me something so old. "We don't run these kind of trips anymore. These companies don't exist now." "Oh," she nodded quickly. "Okay, never mind," and she rose to leave. I tried to offer her one of our safari pamphlets, but she was already out of the door. I shook my head, puzzled. As I turned, I realised she'd left her brochure. Running out into the rain, which was now easing, I couldn't see her anywhere. The crowds had thinned, seeking shelter, but she had gone, like she had slipped into the street and vanished between one heartbeat and the next. I sat down, wrapped my hands around my coffee, and opened the brochure again. Most of the packages were nothing unusual. Corny beach deals, cheap winter sun, family rates. Nostalgic in a way. But near the back there was something else. A full-page advert, thick black border, and a white serif font. No company name, just the title, Dream Escape. And beneath it, trade what you don't want for the holiday you'll never forget. My brows knitted. What kind of slogan was that? Then I read the list. The things you could trade. An evening you'll never get back. Your reflection for one night. An unanswered question. I frowned. It had to be a joke. Some retro marketing attempt from the 80s when everything was strange. And then I noticed something else. The bottom corner of the page had been torn away, just a small scrap missing. The shape of it looked like it had been ripped out quickly by someone's thumb. There were faint indentations in the paper, like a note had once been written there and removed. And then, in the thinnest handwriting, printed almost like it had bled through from another page, "Choose carefully. You only trade once." A cold feeling rippled through me. Not fear exactly, but recognition. Because something about that woman, her odd, careful smile, her old-fashioned clothes under the mac, the way she vanished into nothing, it all snapped together in a way I couldn't immediately explain. That night, I closed the office alone. The brochure sat on the counter. I should have thrown it away. I told myself that over and over, but I didn't. I kept reading the list, those strange, impossible payments. An evening you'll never get back. Your reflection for one night. An unanswered question. What did that even mean? These might be the kind of things lonely people might give up without thinking. The kind of things someone might trade if they were hurting or grieving, if they were desperate, if they needed a break or an escape so badly they would give anything to feel normal again. I thought of my family, thousands of miles away, the holidays I'd been missing, the ache of homesickness sitting heavy beneath everything I did. And before I even knew what I was doing, my fingertips brushed the page, right where the advert seemed to pull inward, like a breath. The lights in the office flickered, just once. But in that heartbeat, the world outside the window went silent again. That same unnatural hush from earlier. I whispered, almost without meaning to, "My reflection?" The brochure warmed beneath my hands. The office phone rang suddenly, and my heart started racing. The phones are automatically diverted after hours. How could someone be calling? Suddenly the speaker on the phone crackled. A faint hiss of static filled the room. the kind old cassette tapes used to make, even though we were digital. Then a voice, hoarse, unrecognisable. 2 words. Contract accepted. The lights flickered again, and behind me, just for a moment, the glass in the office door caught my reflection, except it wasn't my face, and it was smiling, and then it vanished. I never talk about the holiday I took. If those thoughts intrude into my head, I banish them. The office is the same. My work has hardly changed. The floorboards still creak, and the buses still shake the windows. And I never mind the rain. I smile at clients, eager to book their honeymoons, anniversaries, and those once-in-a-lifetime trips. Sometimes, when the office is quiet, I will find a brochure on my desk that I know I didn't order. The paper is heavier than it should be, the colours slightly wrong, and I sigh. I don't offer it to everyone. I know the ones to look out for, the ones who linger, who are looking for something else, something a holiday can't really give them. I always pause carefully to indicate I'm hesitating, that I have something really special, and then I gently slide across the brochure. Their faces light up. This is what they've been waiting for. As they begin to flick through the pages, I already know what they will choose.
This book is Hungry by Dark Quiet Dread.
I work in a library. The work is not usually exciting, but it is interesting and sometimes fascinating. Books are not dull. They are full of mystery, full of stories waiting to be heard. At the National Library, where I work, I'm sometimes allowed into the deepest parts of the building. Rows and rows of books stretch out into the quiet, waiting to be lifted from a shelf. We have many ancient books with real historical value, books that describe lives thousands of years old. When you touch their covers, you can almost feel the stories waiting to be told. Although I love these books, I sometimes wonder if certain stories should never be told. On this particular day, everyone at work was excited. A recent archaeological dig had uncovered an unusual book. It was bound in some kind of skin, deep red, almost black. The binding was immaculate, as though it could have been made last week, except stamped into the centre of the cover was a triangular Mobius symbol. The centre of it was entirely black, like an entrance to something deeper. No author, no date, no title. Inside were stories, short accounts of people's lives. Many lives, possibly hundreds. The book itself was 4 inches thick, a foot tall and 8 inches wide. The front pages were filled with elegant cursive writing. The back was blank. Around the time the book arrived, we'd employed a recent graduate called Alex. He was in his early 20s, and every day he arrived eager, carefully putting on protective gloves and a mask before beginning his work. The earlier stories were written in cuneiform, etched into animal skin. As the eras changed, so did the pages. Papyrus, vellum, then something stranger. The final 2/3 were made from a cotton bond, paper that does not easily absorb ink. Alex had translated 30 stories. All began differently, but all ended the same. Each life mentioned the book itself, always in the present tense. And every story, across thousands of years, was written in the same hand. After 2 weeks, Alex began to change. His focus slipped and his behaviour grew erratic. He said he knew what he was doing, but it felt like he was forgetting things as quickly as he learned them. In the end, Alex was hospitalised. When I visited him, he looked like a husk of his former self. After that, the book was given to me. I was nervous and at the same time thrilled. I decided to begin with the most recent entry. It was written in English, modern contemporary English. It read, Alexander John Finneman was 23 years old and had a rich life. That was Alex's full name. I pushed myself quickly away from the table. I told myself it was a coincidence. The name Alexander was common. It had been used for centuries. Trying to steady myself, I opened the book again at random. This entry was dated from the 16th century. The subject was also 23. And the phrase appeared again, a rich life. Later that week, I met with Lucas, the senior academic overseeing the dig. His hands were stiff with age, but his bright blue eyes still burned with curiosity. I placed the book carefully in front of us, and then explained the findings so far, with emphasis on the similarities in all of the deciphered stories within the book. Lucas listened as I explained. Every subject had been young, healthy, and above all curious. 2 weeks after finding the book, they became forgetful. And then 2 weeks later, they died, their mind gone. Lucas smiled. Do you know what this is? I shook my head. If I'm right, and I usually am, the book is the Hominis Tertiariat. He began to stand now, and he seemed less shaky than when he'd come in. For centuries, it was believed to have been destroyed during the destruction of the monasteries by Henry VIII. I'm guessing you've never heard of it. I said no, wondering where he was going with this. Well, a rough translation might be 3 people. He grinned, his teeth looking straighter, whiter than earlier. It essentially means 3-way humankind. Legend says there really is a storage device for people. Well, their essence is really. You can think of this book as a storage device for human essence. It feeds on the young and the healthy, and then uses that energy to restore the infirm. At least, that's what legend says. As he spoke, the air in the room grew warm and thick. A low vibration settled in my stomach, and I couldn't look away. His appearance began to change even more. His posture straightened, his skin tightened, his voice grew stronger. The book began to pulse. I instinctively moved away. The Mobius symbol drank in the light. Lucas, with a look of greed, placed his hand on the inside of the front cover of the book. Blue light bloomed. Smoke curled upwards. Then he screamed, at first alone, then joined by hundreds of voices. As he was pulled into the book, his body thinned, became translucent. And eventually vanished. Nothing, just silence. The book's cover snapped firmly back in place. I don't know who removed the book, or where it went. I only know Alex died at the same time Lucas vanished, and that we were warned never to speak of it again. There's a reason the Official Secrets Act exists. I still love old books, the smell, the feel of the paper. But I avoid the ones that are very, very old. The ones that look like they might have a soul. No. From those, I keep a very respectful distance.
Thank you for listening, and join us next week for another story.